Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. 8 modern fragrances for working professionals, and this is not a office fragrance video. It's just for people that work, because I've worked a lot of white-collar jobs and a lot of blue-collar jobs, and to me it doesn't really matter. It's just being as professional as you possibly can, being clean, smelling fresh, and I do that mostly just for myself. So I have 8 really good fragrances that will really help in an office or blue-collar work environment, because Lord knows I've worked a lot of both. Fragrance number 1, this is Bleu de Chanel. And Bleu de Chanel is a woody citrus. And woody citruses are really good for work. The only problem is they tend to be really boring. And I've always loved this fragrance, even though it is a woody citrus. And I've always tried to figure out why. Is it the higher quality because it's a Chanel? Is it that ginger note? Is it the incense note? I don't think it's any of those things. I think I finally figured it out. This fragrance has a really prominent warm spicy accord. It's a mixture of labdanum, which is a warm resin, pink pepper, and nutmeg. You put those together, you got a warm spiciness. I think that's what I really like about it. You couple that with really good performance and the fact that this brand has name recognition. People ask you what you're wearing. You tell them Chanel. They're going to know it, and they're going to know it's high quality. And that's always really good, because the last place I worked, I had a million people always asking me what I was wearing. Sometimes that would lead to really long conversations that get in the way of things. I tell them I'm Chanel. They smile. They walk away. That worked really well. So yeah. But this fragrance also, it lives up to the Chanel name. It's super high quality. This is a good one for work. Fragrance number 2, Dior Sport 2021. And when it comes to sport fragrances, for me anyway, I find there's like one of 2 problems. The first one is sometimes they have a little bit of sweetness and they're not really sport fragrances. The second one is more common though. They tend to be very boring. Now this fragrance is neither of those things. This is not sweet at all. It's very, very fresh. It truly is a sport fragrance. And the second thing is it smells great and it's really high quality. This is a sport fragrance that can actually help you in the gym meet other people because it's high quality, it smells good, but it's still really fresh. So there's 2 types of freshness here. There's lemon and bergamot, which is the citrus freshness. Then there's also the resinous freshness. You get elemi and olibanum. Now, normally those 2 notes, the elemi and the olibanum, they're used as accent notes to just make something a little bit fresher and make it smell kind of cool. But Dior went all in on this particular fragrance with those 2 notes. So really, it is more of a fresh resin fragrance. So it smells fresh and high quality. You throw in a little bit of pink pepper and some woods. Beautiful fragrance, great performance too. Fragrance number 3, this is Versace Parfum, a very, very fresh fragrance that has an interesting little kick at the end. So there's 5 notes here. It's often referred to as a floral, and I never understood that because I'm like, I don't really get like a powderiness from it. But now the more I've learned about fragrances, I realize that all floral notes are not equal. So you start off with a citrus freshness, lemon and bergamot, which is pretty standard. But 3 floral notes, neroli. Neroli is a little bit like an orange blossom, so there's an orange citrus element to it. Then you get geranium, which is an aromatic green, so it is also fresh. And then you get hyacinth, which is very green. So those 3 floral notes are very fresh. You combine them with the 2 citrus notes. That's where your freshness comes from. Yes, it's floral. Not all florals are created equal. The kicker for me, though, with this one, it's when you notice that little sweetness at the end the first time, then you go, hey, this is more than just like a boring citrus fragrance. That's when I realized, okay, Alberto Marias did some work on this one because there is tonka and amber in the base. It is, after all, somewhat similar to the Chanel Allure fragrances, which all do have a little bit of sweetness in them, and this one does. It's not quite as high quality, but it's not far off, and the performance is not bad at all. Fragrance number 4, this is Encre Noire à l'extrême, and this fragrance really surprised me. One of the most surprising fragrances I had. So I had 2 fragrances in the Encre Noire line already, and it's a very woody, vetiver-based line, and I thought, okay, the extreme version of that, I'm thinking, okay, well, if they're already really woody, this one is going to be like super pungent woody, like something like Bois de Portugal by Creed. And then I tried it, and I realized, no, it's nothing like that at all. This fragrance is differentiated with an amber component that comes from the benzoin. So it's got a little hint of sweetness. And that's how it's different. It's actually not as extreme, at least for me anyway, and I think for other people too. It's not quite as extreme. It looks more intimidating. The bottle is darker, but I don't think it's more extreme. I think it's less extreme. I like that amber. To me, that amber balances the woods, the vetiver, and the cypress, the fresh element that goes with the bergamot off the top. It balances it out better. It's that just little hint of amber. It just makes it smell better, and this ends up being my favorite of the Encre Noire fragrances. It's just not really that extreme. Fragrance number 5, this is H24 Vives by Hermes. And while Dior and Creed are chasing after the sweetness, they're chasing after the dollars, and they're backing away from creativity, from originality, Hermes is doing what they always do. They're staying the path, they're staying weird, and they're staying stubborn, and they're staying French, and God bless them, because this particular line is so different than anything else out there. The EDP in this line is based around oak moss. Oak moss has been around, like that's a 50-year-old note. No one's hardly used oak moss in 50 years in any consequence, and yet the EDP came out that way. They did something similar with this. The base of this has Fizz Cool, which as far as I'm aware, is a brand new aroma chemical that is a very strong cooling agent. It is meant to be cool and fresh without smelling herbal or minty. And I think they kind of pulled it off. So the fragrance opens with herbal notes. It's got pear in the mid. Now, people in Fragrantic are not picking up that pear based on the voting. I pick it up pretty loud and clear. It's like a mildly sweet pear. But then the Fizz Cool in the base, and it just feels different. It's like, it is really cool. Now, I do think the people that are going to really like it are going to be people in warmer climates because, and also it makes it hard for me to judge it because it's like the middle of a Canadian winter right now, and the fragrance really hasn't performed all that well. It's kind of average. I'm just wondering at this stage, like when summer comes, will this be, perform a little bit better? It's not bad performance, but I'm normally used to Hermes, which, 6 to 8 hours with the EDTs, like really good performance. This one's more 4 or 5. Not a whole ton of projection, but I'm wondering, this is clearly made for summer. When summer comes, I am testing the hell out of this fragrance. And I really like the fact that I put something on for the first time in like months and go, hey, this is different. Fragrance number 6, L'Envol by Cartier. And this is actually a somewhat sweet fragrance, which is kind of weird because normally I like to stay away from sweet fragrances in a professional environment. But the sweetness here, and it is a honey note, and honey is the sweetest note that there is. The honey note is brought to you here by violet leaf, because even though it's really sweet, violet leaf will take a note and lighten it up. And it takes the same thing with Gaiac wood, which is a strong, pungent, woody note, and it lightens that up too. The only problem that I have with this fragrance is the fact that I love iris, and it's one of the reasons I got it, but it lightens up the iris note a little too much for my liking, and it is kind of hard to pick up. But the overall experience, though, is really nice, and it allows you to have, or me to wear occasionally, a little bit of sweetness at work without it being too strong and too pungent. And it's got surprisingly good longevity. The projection is a couple of feet, which is kind of what you want. It's a really nice fragrance, and the sweetness works. Fragrance number 7 is Tiziana Terenzi's Orion. And what this is essentially an extrait de parfum version of Creed Aventus. When I say extrait de parfum, that is the biggest, strongest concentration that you can actually get. So there's a lot of fragrance oil in this. So it's really a thick and rich Aventus, but it definitely leans more to the birch side of the Aventus tree rather than the pineapple side. And that's really what you want in an office environment. I mean, I do think even a pineapple version of Aventus is fine because it's, it's sweeter, but it fundamentally is a fresh fragrance. But I mean, ideally, like if you're really being nitpicky, you probably want more of a birch-based version. It's a little woodier, and that's what you get here. I've never understood why this isn't more popular given what it is and what it does, and the price is relatively good. But yeah, I've said in the past a bottle will be in my future, and it will. Finally, we have Azzaro Visit, and this I purchased because it was the closest thing that I could find to Gucci Rush, which is kind of an iconic fragrance that's been discontinued and is now $250 on eBay. It's a woody, spicy fragrance, and I love woody, spicy fragrances, so I got this. Now, this one has a little bit of amber added to it, but I think I kind of like that as well, to be perfectly honest. So it is fundamentally, though, a woody fragrance. The spiciness comes from nutmeg, cardamom, and pink pepper. The amber quality comes from the labdanum and the ambergris. It's actually probably ambroxan. So it's mainly woody, and you get a little hint of spiciness, a little hint of the amberiness, and it's very, very pleasant, especially when you pick up on the amberiness. That's a part of it I really do like. The performance is pretty average, all around. It's not bad, but it's not excessive. Now, it's got a good rating on Fragrantica for a fairly inexpensive fragrance. So a lot of people do like it. I certainly like it. But just remember, it is kind of a $40 fragrance. It's not going to blow you away, but I think it'd be great for work given how many woods are in here. So yeah, wearing fragrances at work really does help me. It started when I started working with the elderly. It just made me feel more professional, despite the fact that sometimes it was a really dirty job. I think no matter what job you do, whether it's a white-collar job building servers or working with the elderly, will make you feel better, make you feel professional. It'll enhance your reputation, and you're not going to smell bad on the job, even if you're sweating a lot. Yeah, so that's when I started. To me, it was as much a blue-collar thing as a white-collar thing. So yeah, don't be put off by the stigma of whether you're blue-collar or white-collar. It doesn't matter. To me, what matters, to me, this is my personal opinion. I don't want to lecture. It just matters about being professional. Anyway, thanks for watching.